On this episode of the Leadership Hustle, we're going to discuss why some employees don't meet expectations and what we can do about it. Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. Hey, welcome back to the Leadership Hustle. I'm Andrea Fredrickson and
Michelle Hill,
and we're the hosts of the Leadership Hustle. So today we are going to address this topic that I'm sure comes up in some way, shape, or form multiple times a week. Not just once, but multiple times. And the topic is, why are employees not meeting expectations? And I hear the question often, it's like, well, what do you do when, and it's filled with so-and-so isn't doing such and such. And it's like, you know, it's
I've talked to them.
I've talked to them, or I've sent them emails, or, you know, those are the kinds of things that we hear. So we thought we would address this topic because it seems to be one that either higher level leaders can help with their newer leaders, or when we have that thought that says, why is this employee not doing what I need them to do?
Yes.
And thinking through what can I do, because maybe my habits of thought or maybe my patterns or my go-tos aren't working. So first and foremost, I think that we have to take off the table that we're assuming we've hired the right person. Okay, because if we haven't hired the right person, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
But we believe that for the most part, employees doing okay. They've been there for a bit, anywhere from, you know, you believe they're going to stay. That's
they have the
point.
potential. They've been demonstrating and doing things well.
Right.
So
this isn't we've hired the wrong person. It's the person's not meeting our expectations. So now it's a matter of, have we given them more than what they're capable of doing? Is there some other barrier? There's all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So let's look at this from our typical method in our podcast is, what is it? You know, why is it important, and how do we fix it? Well, we already know that people meeting expectations is people doing what they're supposed to, what the expectation is. But Michelle, why do you think that? What's maybe number one or number two reason why employees don't meet expectations? If you were to,
one, I always like to push back and kind of challenge when we have expectations, because there is a bias called curse of knowledge. And because we know how to do something really, really well, we do a really, really shitty job at teaching someone how to do something because we assume, and they should know this. And so we tell them things they need, but not all of the things. And so the clarity of what's that ultimate goal? Why are we doing it? And did we take time to lay it out so we don't forget and to reduce our assumptions. The other thing too is looking at there's so many quadrants, four boxes, right?
Yep.
But it's the will, the motivation, or the ability. And so you got four quadrants go across the will. That's what's their motivation. Is it low or high? And then what's their ability? High or low, right? Mm-hmm. And if they have high ability and high will, so high motivation, that's someone that's probably meeting those expectations.
Sure.
They're extremely engaged. They want more. If anything, I might not be giving them enough, right?
Sure.
Then you go into the bottom right, which that's going to be, we've got high motivation, high will, but we've got that lower ability, right? And is it not, when we say lower ability, is it just they don't know how to do it yet? Or is it they have potential, they need to learn it?
Okay.
Or maybe are they in the wrong spot?
Maybe in the wrong spot.
Right. Yeah. So you can kind of look that way. But it's first just kind of pulling back, and it's like, are they not motivated or are they motivated? Right? Do they have that intrinsic motivation and then ability? And then that ability really leans back to you, is how good of a job have you done at training?
So let's go back to the first one. It's like, how clear are we when we set those expectations?
Yes.
And I was just talking to a group this morning, and one of the guys was one of the questions I asked is, how are you most misunderstood? And his response to me was, I don't think I do a good enough job of explaining exactly what I mean. And then instead of taking it into work, he mentioned, like when I tell my kids, I need you to pick up your room. What he means is make your bed, pick up your clothes.
It's a very vague statement, though,
right? And I mean, we're not literally asking him to pick up the physical, right?
Correct, but yeah,
it's
what is he looking for?
What he was looking for, and he said, and I get frustrated because they don't meet all of those expectations. But he realizes that he wasn't specifically clear about when I mean pick up your room. I want you to do this, 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 and this, and if there's a time frame to get that done. So I challenge us, because he's not the first person, he just happened to be the one that said it this morning, right? That said, I don't think I'm clear, because if I'm not getting the expectation and then I look at it, it's like, I believe people's intentions are good. He's like, I believe people want to do a good job. The very few that don't, they don't all work here. So it must be me and that I'm causing this. And that there are signs that tell us we're not doing something, whether the expectation isn't met or somebody gives you that look like, what do you mean by that? That maybe we are
or
not.
What is this? Yeah.
And we're not asking. We may be asking, do you understand? And do you understand means, I believe I understand what you mean, but that doesn't mean the message you sent was the message, is the way I received it.
They understand it how they see it.
They understand exactly that, right? And so first and foremost, check to see if the person understood what you meant. Not just, I sent them an email, I told them, they said they understood, but we don't know exactly what they understood. So there's no proof that they understand it.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and so tell me, though, what is that fine line between micromanagement and expectations, though?
So I think that when we're talking about the outcome is, I need the room cleaned a certain way, or I need something done by a certain time. If this is the first time I've ever assigned it, tell me what that means to you as a question. Tell me what, I want to make sure that I didn't skip any steps, or that you and I are on the same page. So tell me what you heard, because sometimes when people tell me back, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot.
Yes.
I need this timeline, or I need this done within a condition, or if it doesn't make a difference, tell them that.
Yes.
Right? And so especially the first time that you've assigned something or you've set that expectation. Also on the backside is when it turned out correctly, let them know. This is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. That's an awesome job. Move on. We don't have to cheer out for it, but just let them know that message sent, message received, business taken care of according to expectations. Keep doing that.
Yes. Well, so I think one that I bumped into recently is someone doing analysis that, so they're pulling all the information and then they're compiling it into whether it's a spreadsheet or some sort of visual that this person, their manager, needs, right? Telling them why you need it and how it's going to be used, and kind of what is it, a little bit of what you want it to look like, because they may think that you just want to look at some of the numbers, but it's just really kind of like I'm going to call it like a rough draft. It's the information's accurate, but the visual's like messy, right?
Right.
But if they knew you were taking it to the board, if they knew you were presenting it to the leadership team, and what were the visual component of it, what that needs to look like. We can't assume they know that. So why are you having them do it?
Right.
And how's it going to be used in some situations? Not everything's going to have that, but it's,
and we may say, we're going to eventually deliver this to the board. Let's get the numbers right, or the detail right. Let's make sure you and I are on the same page with that. But think about this in this regard, and then we can talk about what's the visual look like, or what's whatever that is. But let's give them that context.
Well, and an interesting component, I've had this recently, which I don't hear as often, is with this exact type of situation, a person saying, when I ask someone to do something, it comes back over perfect. So they've exceeded expectations. But my concern is they're spending too much time making it pretty. My concern is this is something they probably could have done in 30 minutes, and I know they took over an hour.
Right. Or 2.
Yes, right?
Exactly.
And so not meeting expectations, over meeting expectations isn't always as productive either.
Right. Exactly.
And it's lack of clarity.
So let's go back to the other one. We're talking about, does the person have the skill, and does the person have a motivation?
Yeah.
There's also another component. So we want to assess, do they actually have the skill? Do they have the capacity to do this or learn this? Do they have that? And we have to do a little bit of assessment. Like, do they know how to problem solve? If they were to do this, how would they start it? How would they go about this?
Mm-hmm.
What parts are they missing? What resources do they need? Let's hear about how they think about going through this process, right? But the second part that kind of fits in between the two of those is, what's in the environment that would prevent the person from not being able to be successful on the assignment? So it could be, if I've been assigned something by a person and I think I know what's going on and that's what's going on, Michelle looks over to me and is like, oh, that's not what they mean. They mean you to do this, that, and the other thing. So a coworker
kind of veers in on the side.
Right? Yeah. And sidetracks it. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize that's what they meant. Now I have something different than what I thought, but so what's in the environment? Coworkers, right? Other priorities.
Yes.
The equipment doesn't work.
Distractions. That could really impact accuracy.
Right? Life. So
Yes.
let's say distraction from life, somebody's in the hospital, the kid's not feeling well, I've got to organize something because my spouse is not in town. Like all the things that could
all that baggage.
derail that.
Yes.
It literally could be, like you said, when you talk about distraction, I'm sitting in a place where there is too many people walking around. I'm at home and the dog's got an issue. I have been interrupted 18 times because people just keep either knocking in or knocking on my door or stopping by. But it also could be that, literally we as managers are in the environment. So did we clearly give those expectations and things like that? So I wanted to address, we don't always know whether it's peer pressure that's in the environment or something else that's taking people off track, and we haven't asked. We just assume, oh, they can't do it because they keep coming back with this different thing.
Yeah.
But we haven't asked, tell me what's going on. Tell me why this is getting in the way. Help me understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about, then it's the attitude, right? If somebody's...
That's that motivation-ish.
Right? And when we talk about the attitude, what in the environment that could affect the attitude, right? So
all the things you've already listed could affect their attitude. If they're constantly distracted and they need to read something and they need to process information to put it together, all these one-offs, right? Your brain can't work that way. And then it becomes exhausting, and something that really isn't that big can expand, take longer.
Right.
We can increase our errors, and it can be overwhelming and feel just that pressure that really is an unnecessary pressure, because maybe we just haven't given them permission to, when you work on certain things, maybe it is best you go to, some places have little meeting rooms, some places, work blended remote. There's a variety of things, right? We just haven't said, there are certain things that are great in your environment, but there are other things that you need to not be interrupted. Close your door. Right. I know that's a big one, especially when working with a variety of groups. We can't have a closed door policy because we're collaborative and we're always have to be available for our people. And I'm like, well, yes, your people are very important. Clearly, that's what we talk about all the time. But there are certain things that we do we need to protect and protect us to be able to work on it. Right. To get the best results.
Uninterrupted. We're not talking about days. We're not talking about
No, we're talking like
day.
An hour here, 40 minutes here.
Uninterrupted.
Maybe 2 hours.
Concentration.
Just...
We may also, as part of the environment and as the manager leader, say, if you have questions about this, Michelle knows what those answers are. And so she's done this before. I just want to make sure that you know that that's the resource. Or if she's not going to do it, come to me. These are your 2 resources. If anybody else has questions about that, go to one of us, because you're going to stay on track with this.
Yes.
So
that is actually a really, really good one. Not only is it good because it's basically if anyone else gives you a different direction, don't go down that path. But the other is you may be less available and now they're waiting.
Right.
Right. And
I'm in the bottleneck and now I'm in the environment.
Yes, I'm the unintentional bottleneck. So having two people to go to is huge.
So in that scenario, when people aren't meeting expectations, manager, leader, I think there's a lot of us that wing it. I am known to wing things.
Oh yeah.
I can. The problem is I too often get rewarded for it, so I keep doing it.
Yeah.
But the point is, if we spend time up front, what is it the expectation? About how much time do we think it should take? It may take you a little longer than we thought, but here's what it is. Here's your resources. What's going to get in the way? How do we manage some of those things because we might know this person's work habits. If we worked with them for a bit, we might have to help with that. And the more that we can give them some of that framework up front, the more likely that person is going to meet expectations. I think about I know we don't talk a lot about theories and the research behind certain things, even though it's there, but we talk often about the fundamental attribution error,
yes.
Right? And so to remind our listeners, the fundamental attribution error helps us describe the process of why we feel like we need to assign motivation or traits to people when things don't work out the way we want to or things don't make sense. So the good thing is, we humans are really creative and create stories. The problem is we sometimes assign stories that are not true because we haven't backed them up with facts. So here's an example that if something's been assigned to me and I do it a certain way and I make errors and I do that, but if I assign it to Michelle and Michelle does it wrong, I think, oh, she doesn't have the skill to do it, or she doesn't know what's going on, or she's clueless, or whatever adjective I want to put in there. It's because there's a character flaw there, right? Versus, oh, it's just the process, or this is just my mistake.
I was distracted.
Or I was distracted.
I mean, it's usually not about us. It's about what's coming at us a little bit.
Yeah. So to tie this up, this is one of those episodes where it's like, we know people aren't going to meet expectations, okay? Most people don't not meet expectations on purpose. They want to be successful.
Definitely.
We don't wake up to screw up.
Yes.
So really look at assessing what that person's skill is, right? And if you believe the person's got the capacity to do it, then look at what's in the environment. And that includes us as the manager leader. What's getting in the way? How can we mitigate those things? How can we keep people within the rails? Because those things will affect a good attitude and turn it bad.
Yes.
Yes, are there people that have bad attitudes? But you're going to know that up when I'm assessing skill too, right?
Yeah.
So the attitude of what we're doing is really affected by how successful we feel and if we're set up for success in the process. So this episode, I love this episode. It's simple, but I think it's a place where we can really self-reflect and see, are we doing these things? Are we setting people up for success? Because really, people will stay and work for leaders and managers who do set them up for success. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Leadership Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and follow so you never miss another episode.